I love the multi-discipline aspect of creating content. There's a practice to it. Every aspect of the discipline adds to the great composition. There's a way of working for yourself. There's different roles. There's writer. There's the guy who's looking for the right shots. There's the sound guy. There's the musician.
Tigers above, tigers below, rats chewing on the vine, you know. There's a red strawberry, it's a hell of a show. Here comes the kicker, we but a flicker, pray strength to the end, rise up, guitar picker. Here comes the kicker, my friend. All right.
Hi, my name's Trav, and you found yourself at my Traveling String Camp. Welcome. Here's one way that I would describe authentic intelligence. Authentic intelligence is understanding what you know in the context of all the stuff that you don't know. And then maybe educating yourself at every opportunity, wherever that education presents itself.
There are pirates at sea, there are sharks in the ocean. The problem was me, I caused quite a commotion, and now I can see it all play in slow motion. Here comes the kicker, my friend.
So I've been doing a lot of work trying to understand what's going on with geopolitics and just humans in general, which I've been doing that for a long time. So trying to contextualize what I'm seeing now on the world scene into what I think I know about the past. And then, in the midst of this kind of this experience that is really rich and also really insecure and uncertain. And then this sense that I must create something of value or bring something of value to the world or I will just perish. Son of God, he who shines a light on the corruption of his own people. Son of God, he who asks us to look inward at our own personal corruption before we condemn and destroy others for theirs. Son of God, he who invites us into a world that is beyond our current subjugation to a usury monetary system.
I know you are quicker, you earned that gold sticker. Here comes the kicker, my friend. I never saw her again.
If your why in educating yourself is to put other people in their place with how much you know and to be able to win an argument, then that's what you'll get. However, if you educate yourself with a compassionate, loving heart, with a curiosity and a desire to understand the world and the people in it and the systems and how can I help? How can I be oriented and not naive? That's a very different motivation. It's a very different why. Son of God, he who confronts the money changers in the temple. Son of God, he who asks us to exhaust ourselves, to give everything in our efforts to be true to God as God arises from within us. He who asks us to realize and acknowledge our own unity with God, and therefore our unity with every aspect of creation, oneness with God and His creation. He who asks us to consider our true heart. The question is not, did I murder? The question is, do I have murder in my heart? Do I know what that feels like? Honest self-evaluation, acknowledgement of the spirit that catalyzes murder before it murders. Cain struck his brother Abel, and we suffer still today. He who asks us to see ourselves and the ones we love in everyone, and to recognize how we treat the least of these people, our most hated enemy. I heard someone say that we can only love God as much as we love our greatest enemy. Yeshua says that what you've done and not done for the least of these people, you've also done or not done to or for Him. He who invites us to cast off our anxiety for what we will eat or what we will wear, to trust in God for our provision. He who invites us to cease in our vain efforts to save our own lives. He who invites us to surrender to the loving flow of God. Consider the lilies of the field and the birds in the sky. And that's one thing about being in charge of your own education, or following your bliss, perhaps, or following your intuition about what it is that you need to know and how long you need to stay someplace. And there are a lot of really powerful lessons to be learned in that concerning education. I read this Neil Postman book called The End of Education. You know, what is the end of our education? You know, and is it the end of education? You know, kind of a double meaning title. And he said, we have a lot of hows, like how should we educate people? Oh, it should be with these methods, it should be this way, with this type of technology, but we're still lacking in whys. And I think he wrote this book way back in the 90s, I believe, but it was still so incredibly pertinent, I felt, and so many good lessons about the creating for ourselves why. Why am I educating myself?
Everyone is a storytelling creature. Got it?
He who speaks truth courageously to the professional holy men. He who invites us to take up our own cross. He who invites us to live in a way that will inevitably cause the religious leaders to hand you over to the colonizers so that they can interrogate, torture, publicly humiliate, and kill you. He who invites us to embrace our cross with the deepest compassion for those who are still slaves to the false religion of money worship. He who refuses to hate. He who encourages us to endure to the end.
We will pray.
He who invites us to speak truth to misalign power structures. He who invites us to die and be reborn. He who shows us the path to a resurrected life. Son of God, subversive teacher, confronts the status quo, the Jew who set the Jews free from the oppressive nature of the corrupt leadership. The Jew who asked us to repent of our own subjugation to the corrupt leadership of those who worship money, fame, status, titles, and their own expertise. Son of God, he who asks us to discover for ourselves our own union with the divine by going to the places that scare us. Son of God, he who continues to demonstrate to us what it is like to choose love and connection over corrupt and cultish systems. Is it true what the Declaration of Independence says, that if we see a government over us that we cannot consent to, that it is our duty to either abolish it or change it? Is it true what Gandhi said, that we, the people, are responsible for every action that we see our government carrying out? Now, if that is the case, if the people are responsible for every action that we see our government carrying out, well then, there may be a point of action for we the people who are under a government that we seem to not be able to consent to. Here's one really important question. What can we know, and how do we come to know it? In other words, how are we being informed? What do we think we know about what's going on in the world out there? What do we think we know about our government? How have we been informed? Who has told us what they think is happening? Where did they get their information? Who is informing us? And how is the government propagandizing us? And who is funding your information sources?